One ball and no strikes. Aaron waiting. The outfield deep and straight away. Fastball is a high drive into deep left center field. Buckner goes back to the fence. It is gone.
What's up, everybody? Today's video is going to be for my fellow baseball card collectors out there. I'm going to be showing footage of my collection of autographed 1958 Topps baseball cards that I recently sold in order to invest into OMI tokens and NFTs. And also at the end of the video, just so my fellow baseball card collectors don't feel too bad for me, I'm going to show off some more autographed vintage cards that I still have in my collection. But I'm also selling those off as well because I'm moving my physical assets over to digital assets, and this is the reason why. So the main reason I'm starting to move my physical assets into digital assets is of course because of value. I want to be able to pass down to my son in the future collectibles that have increased in value since I purchased them. If you're a vintage baseball card collector, then you probably noticed that the value of these cards haven't went up in many years, and I'd be lucky if this collection of 1958 Topps cards doubled in value over the next 10 years, whereas some of the NFTs I've collected have already more than 10x in value in just a few months. So as I've learned more and more about NFTs and the technology behind them, and I've seen the results of the ones I've already invested in, I know that now's a good time to start moving my physical assets over into digital assets and to begin collecting for the future. Something that came to my mind when I was trying to make the decision about moving my physical collection into a digital collection are the reasons why we collect things. And really there's three reasons. The first one being, of course, because it's something that we like or love and something that we are going to look at in the future ourselves. And the second reason is because it's something that we expect to go up in value in the future. The third reason we collect, though, is so that we can show it off to other people. And when it comes to physical collectibles, it's becoming harder and harder to do. It's not like you have people coming over to your house. You might have, if you have baseball cards, have to go to a card show. If you have physical comics, you have to pick them up and take them with you. Whereas when you're dealing in the world of digital collectibles, you have them in your pocket at all times. So with the emergence of the popularity of NFTs, people are noticing that even the digital collectibles are outperforming their physical counterparts. A good example of that is Garbage Pail Kids. Topps recently released NFTs of the Garbage Pail Kids on the Wax platform, and they ended up selling for more than the physical counterparts. And some of the reasons that this is happening is because NFTs are easier to trade, they're difficult to counterfeit, they're secure. They can be highly interactive, whether they are now. They can be even more interactive in the future, in the metaverse, which we're going to talk about here in a second. And most importantly, they're damage proof. You can't mess them up and damage them. And that's a big problem that collectors have. They also don't take up any space. I know as a baseball card collector, I have boxes in my basement and boxes in my office of cards, whereas I can access all of my NFT collectibles from either my phone or my web browser. NFTs have really only been a thing in the public eye this year, just a few months really, and you can already see by the polls that physical collectors in all areas are very interested in getting into the world of digital collectibles. And an important aspect of NFTs, and the main reason why a lot of us collect them, is because they're going to be even more important in the future. In the future, a lot of people are going to need NFTs to verify or authenticate their physical assets. And this, of course, over time will make NFTs mainstream and push mass adoption, which of course will make our collectible NFTs, which were the first on the blockchain, to be more valuable. And of course, a big reason to start collecting NFTs is because the metaverse is coming. Facebook, Apple, a lot of companies are talking about how the metaverse is going to relate to their business. And a lot of metaverses have already popped up and created a lot of traction and are already selling land and other items for big prices. So as I begin selling off my physical collection and investing in NFTs and digital collectibles, I'm looking at platforms that sell NFTs that are licensed and are going to be the leaders in the future. For example, some of the NFT platforms that I collect on and have already seen big returns on are NBA Top Shot, DraftKings, Terra Virtua, and my personal favorite, VeVe, which now is selling Marvel licensed comic book NFTs that you can read not only through the app, but also in augmented reality. So because I'm such a big fan of VeVe, and this is a platform that hasn't even opened their metaverse yet, I've decided to invest this money into not only their NFTs, but also their cryptocurrency, and that's the OMI token. OMI is a cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, but in the future it will be used to buy and sell the NFTs on the VeVe platform, and it has its own deflationary tokenomics, which means that as NFTs and land in the VeVeverse is purchased and sold, the OMI tokens burn and actually disappear forever, which adds scarcity to the ones that we already own, making them increase in value. So I have big expectations for this NFT platform in the future. They've assembled a great team and have already acquired some amazing licenses. The OMI token itself right now is less than a penny to buy, so I've bought hundreds of thousands of them, and when they're worth $1, I'll probably retire to Hawaii. So in order to invest more into what I believe the future of collectibles is, I had to sell off my collection of 200 autographed 1958 Topps baseball cards. Now I started putting this set together about 2 years ago when I learned about a hobby called TTM, which stands for Through the Mail, where collectors send cards off to players through the mail to get them autographed. As I was learning more about the hobby, I found a guy who was selling off his grandpa's collection of 1,300 autographed cards from the 1980s, and I purchased that collection from him for $1,300, and it also came with a box of signed index cards, and it was probably one of the best investments I've ever made. So while selling off that collection one by one, a lot of the guys who were collecting them didn't want to pay for them, they just wanted to trade cards, and me myself as a vintage baseball card collector, I had no problem trading off these 80s autographed baseball cards for baseball cards from the 1950s and 60s. And also while hanging out in these rooms, I found out how TTM works, and I sent off quite a few cards to get autographed myself. So I picked the set of 1958 Topps to collect because 1950s is my favorite decade of baseball cards to collect, and also because these cards have a solid background, which is perfect for autographs. The most expensive card in the collection was the Hank Aaron, of course, which was authenticated and slabbed by PSA. It's one that I purchased for $500 last year, and it's probably worth about $700 on its own. One of my favorite 58s in the collection is the Brooks Robinson. I sent this card to him in the mail with $20 and a letter to him thanking him for signing it, and I was surprised when it came back with the human vacuum cleaner inscription, which he usually charges $75 for just for the inscription at his private signings. Another one of my favorites is the Dick Tomanek card. Tomanek only played in the major leagues for 1 year, but he was tall and skinny and his nickname was Bones. And when I wrote to him to have the card signed, I asked for the Bones inscription, which surprisingly he added to the card, and as far as I know, it's the only autograph in existence with the Bones inscription. Another cool card in the collection is the Jim Darrington. Darrington was a 16-year-old pitcher who had such a great season his senior year at high school, both pitching and hitting, that he went straight to the major leagues, and he became the youngest pitcher to ever start a major league game. This card was signed at a private signing long ago, and it includes his debut date of the MLB, which was back in 1956. Some of the other big name cards that were in this set were Elston Howard, Eddie Matthews, Whammy Douglas, who pitched with a glass eye, Jim Bunning, Pee Wee Reese, Jim Mudcat Grant. So it's a set that I'm going to miss, but also I'm going to love the collectibles that I purchase with that money and the gains that I get from the OMI token in the future. Luckily, I do still have some cool autographed vintage baseball cards in my collection, but I do plan on selling them off going forward. The guy who purchased my collection of 1958 Topps said he was interested in buying some of my Hall of Fame rookies that are autographed, and if you're an old school baseball card collector, you probably know that it used to be taboo to get rookie cards autographed, but within the last 5 or 10 years it's become a new thing, and the players are starting to do it again, and that makes these more scarce because they weren't doing it back then. Probably the most valuable card in my collection right now would be the 1954 Topps Earl Combs, and Earl Combs is easily the most underrated Hall of Fame player in existence. This guy was the leadoff hitter for the 1927 Yankees, which most people will tell you is the best baseball team of all time. But of course he gets overshadowed by Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. His autograph is pretty hard to obtain. He actually passed away before I was even born, and in the last 4 or 5 years of his life, his wife signed all of his fan mail, so none of those autographs pass as authentic. Another card in my collection that has some sentimental value and will be hard to part with is the Raleigh Fingers rookie card, and because that's the first multiplayer card that I sent off to each player to have completed myself. Also, Raleigh Fingers is one of my favorite players to collect. Some of my other favorites is the 1962 Strikeout Leaders. I purchased this card with 3 of the autographs already on there, including Jim Bunning, and I sent it off to Camilo Pascual and Ralph Terry myself to get it completed. Another one of my favorites is Wilmer Vinegar Ben Mizell, and this is on a 1953 Topps baseball card. After his Major League Baseball career, Mizell went on to represent North Carolina as a congressman for several decades. Another one of my favorites would be the 1955 Bowman Sandy Consuegra. He's actually from Cuba. His autograph's pretty hard to get a hold of, and he always signs it with sincerely, which I think looks great on this card. And if you're a Boston Red Sox fan like me, you probably know who Jim Rice is. And a lot of people talk about how nice he is to fans. Well, it's definitely true. I sent 2 cards to Mr. Rice to have them signed, and one of them was already signed by a player in blue Sharpie, and the other was his rookie card, which Mr. Augustine had already signed in blue ink. And Jim Rice was nice enough to take the time to sign the first card in blue Sharpie to match the first signature, and the second card in blue ink to match that signature, and he even sent me the blue ink pen with the card so that I could send it off to the other 2 players, which is pretty awesome. And lastly, here's my Joe Pepitone rookie from 1962. I purchased this card for I think $50 or $60 and sent it off to a Joe Pepitone private signing because it was the oldest multiplayer card where all 4 players were still alive and you could complete yourself. So after getting it back from the private signing, I sent it off to Mr. Phil Lenz to get the second autograph, but a couple weeks later, Mr. Lenz passed away. I didn't see that card again for like a year, so I assumed it was gone forever, but one day it just popped back up in my mailbox and back into my collection. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're an autograph collector like me, it's awesome to know that VeVe is creating NFTs that can even be autographed, and in the process, a person who's autographing your NFT would sign on your phone, and the phone would also take a picture of them, and both of those would be connected to your NFT. That's like an autograph, kind of like on a baseball card, but even includes a picture of the person as they were at that time. So if you're interested in learning more about VeVe and you have any questions, feel free to join my Discord server. I'll put the invitation link below, and I'm also going to link a couple videos that are helpful in learning how to buy OMI tokens if you want to invest in the platform. Thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.